2024 is all about getting to the bag, and I wanted to do an updated video for this year about all the personal finance books that I think are perfect for people of color. All of these books are actually written by women of color, and I've read most of them. If not, I'm still reading some of them, but I will be ranking them by the level of difficulty, so where you are in your financial stage. But even if you are just at the very beginning, please watch the entire video through, because there are other books you're going to see that will really help you as you progress and get further along. So save this video for later so you can always come back to it, but let's get started and talk about these books. So the first is going to be Rich AF by Vivian Tu. So she is your rich BFF on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. This girl is literally everywhere. I started following her back in 2020. I just loved her tips. So Vivian is this really pretty Asian woman, and she used to work on Wall Street trading stocks every day, right? So she worked with a lot of really high-end people as well as high-end clients, and she did not grow up with a silver spoon in her mouth, so she really had to learn all these things the hard way. Her TikTok and her just social media in general will tell you a lot of really helpful tips and hints to planning your budget, how to save money, and she also makes it very friendly to people my age, so like the older Gen Z range to like the younger millennial range. So far I am loving this book, so I am still reading it, but I would say this is a really great starter book for if you are brand new to personal finance, right? So if you are, let's say, in your younger 20s, or maybe you just like want to get your ish together finally and you want to figure out where you start, this is it. So she will lay out why it's even important for you in the first place to get your finances together. She talks a lot about mindset. She talks a lot about having a rich attitude and doing what rich people do. So she gives you a lot of really secret, really helpful hints and tips. And when she even talks about budgeting, so that's the part I'm at right now, she really forms it in a way that it doesn't make it like a tiresome task where you're like, oh, I have to do my budget. It's more of like, I get to do my budget because then I get to buy that Prada purse that I want, or then I get to buy the new makeup foundation that I want. So the writing, I think, is phenomenal. Like I said, I think it's a really great beginner book. She does tell you how to set up your 401k if you're working a 9 to 5, or how to set up a Roth IRA. She does get into like why you should invest and how you can get to that point even if you only have $5 left to invest. You know, she helps you figure that out. So I think this is a really great beginner book. Also has a YouTube channel here on YouTube, and she'll tell you different things about how to find a house, like how much you should save when you're looking for a house, or what house cost is in your budget and how to budget for that. A lot of her tips are, anyone could really use Vivian's tips. However, I think they would resonate the most with women because it talks about things that you probably like. So vacationing, purses, getting your nails done, getting your lashes done, all of it. So she makes it really digestible and really easy, and I really like that about this book. But yeah, so this is like a great starter point if you are just dabbling in your personal finances and figuring out where you want to go. Next level up is going to be Girls That Invest. So Imran Kaur is a podcast host of the podcast Girls That Invest. I've been listening to this podcast for so long, since I was in graduate school, and I love it. So first, I think she's from New Zealand or maybe Australia. One host is from Australia, one host is from New Zealand. The accents are great. I love it. I love it so much. But they really do talk about investing from an Australian standpoint. However, a lot of their investment advice and a lot of their helpful hints and tidbits are all based on the US investment system. So they talk about it in both Australian terms and then also in US terms. So that is also in this book. And this book talks about strictly investing. So it talks about why it's important to invest, how you can invest yourself, how you can get different stocks if you want to do trading, or if you want to just do simple route with mutual funds. So this one is literally all about investing, what to invest in. So I think this is a really great level up from Vivian's book, because Vivian does touch on investment, which really talks about how to get your budget going and how to get like in the good zone. Whereas this is really about, once you've locked down your budgeting, once you've figured out how to manage your current money, how do you then use that money to then make more money without actually having to do anything like physical labor and stuff like that. So I'm really enjoying this book a lot. Like I said, I do enjoy the podcast. They talk about a lot of really interesting topics that you wouldn't hear on a normal like male hosted podcast. So one of the things they talk about are the different indexes that will tell you like how the economy is. So like the lipstick index, which not a lot of male podcasters are talking about when they talk about finance. So that it's really girly, it's really fun, it's really, like, it's very pink. So I do like this book a lot. There are a lot of diagrams that you can see that kind of explains the different concepts she talks about, gives you definitions and explains those definitions of the different investment terms. This is like a really great book for if you're a corporate girly, you got your finances down right, and you want to learn how to invest so you don't have to keep working all the time. Okay, this is really the book for you. I'm enjoying it so far. I think it's a really great buy. So next is gonna be for my entrepreneur girls, or people who are just like, you know, leveling up. Like just leveling up a little bit, probably with a side hustle or a few. And that is called Your First Million by Arlan Hamilton. Now, this is not the last book on the list, and there's a reason why. So this book really talks about money mindset and how to train yourself from thinking about a 9-to-5 to thinking about working for yourself and building $1 million business. So she talks about your first million, as in like your first million of many millions. But Arlan Hamilton actually used to be homeless and was homeless for a very long time until she started to build her business, and she built $1 million business, or several $1 million business, within 6 years. So it's actually insane, her story. Her main business that she started that took her out of homelessness was starting a capital firm and being able to invest in POC businesses. So it's really cool. She explains a lot of business terms about like starting a business, also about how to get funds for your business and the different types of funds that you can acquire, how you can then sell it. Like, she talks about a lot of things that was honestly my first time hearing it and reading about it in a book. She also has a YouTube channel. She also has a podcast where she talks to different folks who were everyday people and decided they wanted to be millionaires, and they decided to build a business. So her podcast is called Your First Million, and a lot of her podcast guests people who were going through something very similar to her, so either in mounds and pounds of debt, or just wanted to see a different situation, wanted to pursue entrepreneurship, and ended up making their first million through some route. So what I also love about this book is that she talks about how she made her first million. So it wasn't just the capital business venture, but it was also through her going to and doing public speaking engagements, from her having a social media platform, from her writing a book. So she had a book that came out before this one, and she talks about how she got like her book deal and how she was paid out through that, how she allocated different funds, how she switched funds. She also talks about how she made mistakes and then how she would then use that to guide her future business decisions so that she would then make that money back. So it's really interesting. I love this book a lot, but it really tackles your money mindset, but specifically your $1 million money mindset. So how to make $1 million, how to get there, but also knowing that you can have multiple streams of income, but you don't necessarily have to start out having multiple streams of income. I really enjoyed this book so much. I read this book in a day. I wouldn't recommend that you read it in a day. I think you should read it over several days so you can really take in the information. But I did mark up the tabs. I did highlight all throughout this book. One of the things that she also highlights, I think is really important, is how she talks about networking. So generally in books you will say like network, but she really talks about that you should network laterally with people that are within your age range, within your job structure, or within your role, because that then leads to you being given other opportunities. And I think that is so true, because I've seen that in my own career, where a lot of people that I've networked with laterally that were in a similar position as I was then introduced me to someone of a higher ranking, right? So a higher status, but were introducing me so that I could be able to participate in other opportunities. So networking doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're networking with the CEO. It could be that you're networking with someone in a different department that is, you know, in your same salary range, right? So I like that she really takes a veil off and just talks about different concepts that you wouldn't normally see in personal finance books. But I love this book. I love this book so much. It was so good. You definitely need to get this one, but of course after you've mastered the first two. Okay, and last but not least, this one is so good. Oh my gosh, I'm halfway through this one too, and that is Your Journey to Financial Freedom. So this is also written by a podcast host that I've been listening to for a while. So I've been listening to Journey Launch podcast. That's by Jamila Souffrant, and she talks about achieving financial freedom, but through the FIRE movement, so financially independent, retire early. And a lot of people aren't really talking about this unless you are just so deep into the personal finance space, but I somehow found her podcast, and it's so good. So she talks a lot about people who want to retire early before 65 years old, and she talks about different routes that you can take to do it. A lot of the general advice from male podcasters is to not have fun, not vacation, not spend an extra dollar doing anything, and save every single dollar and invest it everywhere so that you don't have to retire at 65. She takes a different approach where she talks about different elements of that. So whether you're going to be really strict with yourself, or whether you want to be a little bit more lax but still be able to have different financial abilities where you're not necessarily reliant on a job and you can leave your job whenever you want. So I love this book so much. It does talk about your initial budget, so it does sound very beginnerish in the beginning, I will say that. But as you read and continue more and more, she will tell you how to start up your investment account. So not only your retirement account, but an additional investment account, and how you invest into those funds for the next few years, or probably a little bit over a decade, and how to calculate your FIRE number. So how much you even need to retire early. How do you figure that out? How do you go about investing in that fund? How do you allocate your funds? It's all in this book. I love her book so much. The podcast, she started out interviewing a lot of people who were in huge amounts of debt, like people that were in like $400,000 amounts of debt, and found a way to get out of it. So they would take up an extra job, they would move and, you know, cut their expenses down in half, and they would put all their money towards their debt, and then after they got out of debt would then put that money towards investments, and we're still able to retire early despite starting out at being in $400,000 of debt. So the stories are absolutely insane, but a lot of her current podcast episodes have been about your money mindset and trying to figure out how to balance the two. So wanting to invest that you have a future in the end, and you have a lot of freedom within your future, and having a lot of freedom of time and not necessarily having to go to a job, but also that you can still enjoy your life throughout and still go on vacation, still go to happy hour every now and again, not all the time. But she really is focused on balance in a lot of her very recent episodes, and I love that so much, because in my era of life right now, I'm also focused on balance. So I think this is a really great book if you have graduated beyond setting your budget, beyond starting a retirement fund, and you are either trying to start a side hustle or you're trying to retire early before the age of 65. So altogether, these books are phenomenal, literally phenomenal to get you started in your personal finance journey. They are the books that I'm going to be referring back to time and time again throughout this year. And if you guys like this video, let me know, and I will continue to read more finance, but specifically written by people of color, so that it is relatable but also caters to you as a reader. Let me know what you guys think about these books, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.